Hello everyone, match day is upon us. Tottenham versus Everton in the Premier League. The possible return of Dele Alli to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tonight, 8 o'clock, Sky Sports, it is live. So let's get into it. Kieran from Speaking Spurs, talking all things Tottenham. Welcome to the channel to anyone new, and welcome back everyone that's been here for a while. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that button to find out when the next videos go live. Don't forget to support the videos with a like, and most importantly, as always, post your comments below. So let's talk about it. We'll get into it all. Question is, which 11 is Conte going to go with tonight? So as we've seen over the course of this season, unchanged squads under Antonio Conte have resulted in a loss straight after a win. However, with this, we've had enough time to prepare. We've had the 6 days, so the players have had time to recover, time to look through tactics, etc., etc. The worrying thing about recent weeks, obviously when Conte started, we had a fairly successful beginning in the Premier League. He went unbeaten for a while. But since then, the pattern has been, and this isn't just the Premier League, this is every game Tottenham have played, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss, win, loss. It's inconsistently consistent. We can't string a run of wins together. We can't really lose all the time. We're not managing to draw. So the consistency is the fact that we're inconsistent. Incredible. So Bentancur is back from his ankle injury. It hasn't kept him out for long. Lucas Moura is also back, but we are still without Oliver Skipp and Japhet Tanganga. Kulusevski has been our most creative player in the last few games, but he looked tired against Borough. So may he need a rest? Will Lucas Moura come back into the side to take his place? But however, with the amount of days rest the squad have had, I think Kulusevski is in with a shout to still start this game. Bentancur, I would fully expect if he's fit enough to start the game, he will come in straight from the off with probably Harry Winks dropping to the bench. Conte has hinted that he will stick with Ryan Sessegnon, and that Reguilon, now back from COVID, was on the bench in the last game, came on for a bit, didn't really do much. However, Reguilon will have to fight to gain his place back in the squad. You know, I actually think that's kind of a good attitude. The one thing that Ryan Sessegnon has been missing is being injury-free and consistent game time. So this can be the opportunity and springboard to get him to go forward, and also it can take Reguilon onto a new level, or at least back to the level he was when we got him, because as we've seen, his form has dramatically dropped from his first few months in a Spurs jersey. So that could be good. A little bit of competition there. We may see the fight that we had similarly to the Danny Rose, Ben Davies situation seasons ago. What else? Doherty or Royale? Who is he going to go with? In my opinion, I think he should go with Doherty. He's showed better, what shall I say, link up with other players around him. I think him and Kulusevski have looked okay together. I'm not going to say great, because none of our wing-backs, full-backs have been fantastic this season. However, Doherty was playing okay-ish in the last game, slightly restricted in the end, but going forward, he's been better. And Emerson Royale, when he came on in the game against Borough, offered absolutely nothing, kept giving the ball away, played on 2 Middlesbrough players for the winning goal. So what does that mean for the squad? Predicted lineup, I'm going to go with Lloris in goal. Probably maintain the back three of Romero, Dyer and Davies. And then Doherty and Sessegnon as the wing-backs, with Hojbjerg partnered with Bentancur in the centre. Kulusevski on the right, Sonny on the left and Kane up top. The only other one that I think could be the possibility is Kulusevski comes out and Lucas Moura comes in. However, I think Moura's probably going to be more effective from the bench because of his pace and intensity. So it's an important game for both teams for very different reasons. For us, we need to keep up that pressure in the hope for top 4, whereas Everton want to avoid getting drawn back into a relegation battle. Everton's team news, they should have Calvert-Lewin back, Damari Gray back and Gomez. Godfrey, however, is still out. So yeah, that's it for them in terms of injury boosts. Then Everton, and this is a good omen for us, Everton have the fewest away points in the Premier League this season, with a staggering amount of only 6 points on the road. And even better news, Lampard doesn't exactly hold back when he plays away. He doesn't tighten things up and go defensively. It's probably because of the style of play he had when he was a professional. He was very much moving forward, breaking into the box late to latch on to the end of things, goal-scoring midfielder. So I suppose that's kind of gone through into his coaching as well, with a bit more of an attacking intent. So he doesn't really tighten up whatsoever. And whilst as Chelsea boss, his team at Chelsea conceded the second most amount of goals of any Premier League team, which was 50. So that averages out at 1.7 goals per game. And that's out of 20 Premier League teams, the second most goals shipped in away games. So that tells you it could be a very open game, which will play into the hands of Antonio Conte, because we will get the ball, we will hit them on the break. And with the 6 days rest, it should be a game where you back Tottenham to grab a win. Now, let's talk about some of our stats. Harry Kane, 12 in 14 games against Everton. Even more impressive, 11 of those have come in the last 9 games. So if you're backing anyone to score goals against Everton, he's also in form at the moment. Let's take the Borough game out of the equation. I think that was more of a squad dynamic. Everybody kind of let us down. But in terms of Premier League right now, he's the man in form. 11 goals in 9 games. I feel like he's going to add to it. We've only lost one of our last 18 Premier League games against Everton. That will be 8 wins and 9 draws. There you go. That's a pretty good omen. And then despite the up and down form of Sonny this season, he's been very, very mixed bag. Some games ridiculously quiet. Against Borough, I think it's probably the worst I've seen him play in the last couple of seasons. So despite that up and down form, he has 10 goal involvements in the last 11 Premier League games. That's 6 goals and 4 assists. The only player that has contributed more towards their team in the Premier League in that same time is Mikel Antonio. So even when Sonny is in poor form, he still manages to contribute. And I suppose that answers the question. I mean, when I've moaned several times that Sonny doesn't get taken off, those stats right there probably explain why managers are afraid to take him off, because even on a poor day, he can still contribute to a goal in some sense. And as we've seen in many Premier League games this season, you know, winning by 1 goal is not uncommon. So, if we were to win this game, we stay 7th in the Premier League, but not to fear. We'll be level on points with West Ham, so effectively joint 6. It'll only be goal difference that they're above us on, and that'll be 45 points. We have 3 games in hand on them and Man United. Man United currently sit on 47 points. So if we win all our games in hand, we jump above Manchester United. The only people standing in our way at the moment are Arsenal, who obviously have games in hand. You know, they are where they are. So basically at the moment, it is Arsenal's 4th spot to lose. They've managed to jump into there now. Wolves are starting to tail off. I mean, I genuinely thought in their last game, they'd maybe turn things around after losing 2 on the bounce. They haven't done that. They've now lost 3 on the bounce, which means they're slipping further and further away from it. West Ham, I don't think are going to have the longevity and squad depth to do this whilst competing in Europe as well. Chelsea, I don't know. We'll see about Chelsea. I think they've got enough points in the bag to move on with things. And I know they're in a little bit of a rough patch, but I feel like they're going to climb out of that pretty quickly. They had a good win at the weekend. So it's Arsenal's to lose at the moment. And we've seen what can happen because we do it as well. We have this massive chance to stake a claim to be in that top 4 and then we throw it away. So Arsenal's consistency will be questioned. We'll see. Right, let's talk about Dele Alli. This has been an interesting one. So Antonio Conte was asked about the prospect of Dele Alli coming back to haunt us. And I'll just kind of surmise what he said because it was a bit long-winded, but he's basically saying he doesn't feel like Dele Alli is a threat. When players go out the door, they don't really come back to seek revenge. But what he essentially meant was what happens usually is that when players are sold by him, when they're not wanted anymore, they go down, not up. So he's basically saying in a nutshell, when he gets rid of a player, there's a reason behind it. And they usually don't get better. They usually get worse. Now, I don't want to see that happen to Dele Alli. I think a lot of us would love to see him reignite his career. And he's at Everton, so it's not a club that at the moment are a direct threat to us whatsoever. So I'm fine with that. I do want to see him get it back on track. but he wouldn't answer the question on why it didn't work at Spurs for him in the end. He said it wasn't really important to talk about it. Dele at Everton so far has mostly appeared from the bench, 4 times in the Premier League from the bench. Obviously, he's cup tied, so that's why he hasn't had loads and loads of minutes. But Lampard, when talking about him, has said Dele was always a long-term plan. There's no need to panic about his lack of minutes or to rush him into the squad. Lampard has massive belief in him as a player, and if not for being cup tied, he would have played more, got more minutes. He has come on and made an impact from the bench every time he's been there. His time will absolutely come to start games. And then when talking about his positions, so part of the thing that I didn't enjoy about Dele Alli in the latter days wasn't actually Dele Alli, it was the managers that kept moving him around to try and fit him into the squad rather than trying to build a squad around his position. So we found Dele Alli ended up being out on the left quite a lot, put in deeper roles in midfield, which I don't think suits him whatsoever. My opinion, and most people's opinions, including Frank Lampard's, is that his best position is as a number 10. We've seen that. Similarly to Frank Lampard himself, his best times is when he's latching onto balls into the box, making things happen. He's got a good eye for goal. But even at Everton, he's already been used in different positions. And I think that's been because of the injuries that Everton have had and having to shuffle things about. So a few players have had to move about into different positions to help the squad. So he's basically said that he can play as an attacking number 8, as he has done many times for other managers at Tottenham. But ultimately, he's naturally a number 10. So you'd probably think at some point that's where he's going to move to. I would expect in this game, Dele Alli will not start. I think it'll be another appearance from the bench. And that's actually probably a worst case scenario for us than if he was to start. Reason being, if he comes on from the start, he's got time to tire in the game. You bring Dele Alli on against a manager that got rid of him, and I do think Dele Alli is the kind of guy that will want to prove Conte wrong and will put it in. So if you bring on Dele Alli into a game where Spurs players are more tired than he is, I think you've got a very potent recipe for disaster. So hopefully he doesn't come on and score against us. I want to see him do well. I just don't want to see him do well against us. But I don't want him to have a really bad game either. I hope the Spurs fans give him a good reception tonight after all the years he spent there. So yeah, that is pretty much it for tonight's game. And as I said, so that's an 8 PM kickoff. It's on Sky Sports versus Everton at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That is my take on it. So I'll just go over my predicted lineup again of Hugo Lloris in goal, a unchanged back 3 of Romero, Dyer and Davies, the wing backs of Doherty and Sessegnon, Højbjerg and Bentancur partnering each other in central midfield with Kulusevski, Son and Kane as the front 3, with the possibility of Kulusevski being changed for Lucas Moura. Let me know in the comments below what you think the predicted lineup is going to be. What do you think? What do you think on the score prediction for tonight? I think we're going to win. Don't know how many by. It just depends on the players that are put out there and the attitude they've got after that Borough defeat. But you would think with the time that we've had off, Conte's teams are always better after a week off. So, enjoy the game tonight. Fingers crossed we get a win over the line and then we can have another happy conversation. And we don't have to play another game straight away. So there is time in between for the players to recover. Hopefully Conte will not put out the same team again if we win. Make a couple of tweaks just to make sure it's not a curse. I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but, you know, you never know. So thanks for sticking around. Enjoy tonight. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And until tomorrow, where we're hopefully talking about a win, come on you Spurs.